6 months after the Battle of Luna, the galaxy had learned to speak humanity's name in whispers. The Galactic Council still existed, but now their meetings included a new face, Ambassador Hyejin of Earth, flanked by two polite but heavily armed human marines who stood at attention behind her chair. The elegant chamber of Nexus Station had not changed, but the atmosphere was entirely different. Where once there had been the calm certainty of absolute power, now there was tension, fear, and the knowledge that the universe had fundamentally shifted. Chancellor Vorthak Prime's crystalline form reflected the lights differently now, dimmer somehow as if the defeated soul had leached the brilliance from his being. Across the table, General Thekmor bore fresh scars from the battle, his warrior's pride broken by the memory of watching his fleet die. The Corvin colonies in the Rigel sector are requesting human protection, Ambassador Hyejin announced, consulting her tablet with casual indifference. Apparently, the local Vorthak garrison has been unreliable in dealing with pirate raids. The words struck like a physical blow. Corvin worlds asking for human protection instead of council forces. It was unthinkable, impossible, and yet it was happening throughout the galaxy. This is unacceptable, General Thekmor growled. Those worlds are under Corvin protection. We will not allow human interference. Hyejin looked up from her tablet, her expression politely curious. General, with respect, your protection failed to prevent 17 major raids in the last month. Our protection hasn't failed to prevent anything, because nothing dares attack worlds under human protection. The truth was uncomfortable but undeniable. Humanity's reputation for overwhelming retaliation had spread faster than their ships. Pirates, raiders, and local warlords who had operated freely under the Council's elegant but ineffective justice system now avoided human-protected space like it carried a plague. Admiral Bo-Ra, now bearing the title of Supreme Commander of Human Forces, reviewed reports from across the galaxy in her expanded headquarters on Luna. The orbital complex had grown into a city of steel and purpose, the nerve center of humanity's rapidly expanding influence. Status report, she requested from her staff. Commander Hyun-woo stepped forward with his usual crisp efficiency. The Third Fleet has secured the Centaurus Junction. All major hyperspace routes in that sector are now under our control. Admiral Sujin reports that local species are actively requesting human administration. What about the Outer Rim territories? Commodore Tejo's exploration fleets have established forward bases in 17 previously unclaimed systems. We're encountering minimal resistance. Most species seem eager to avoid conflict with us, Bo-Ra nodded. It was exactly what they had hoped for. Humanity's strategy had always been based on creating such overwhelming demonstrations of power that actual fighting became unnecessary. The galaxy was learning that cooperation with humans was far preferable to opposition. Dr. Wu Jin entered the briefing room, his arms full of data tablets and his expression excited. The former xenobiologist had become humanity's director of interspecies research, overseeing joint projects that merged human engineering with alien science. Admiral, I have the preliminary reports from the joint research stations. The Vorthak crystal matrix technology, combined with human manufacturing techniques, has increased our computing power by 300%. The Zilani are sharing their psychic research in exchange for our gravity manipulation technology. Willing cooperation? Bo-Ra asked. Enthusiastic cooperation. They've discovered that human theoretical frameworks unlock applications for their technology that they never considered. We're not just conquering the galaxy, Admiral. We're revolutionizing it. On the bridge of the exploration vessel New Sol, Commodore Tejo studied star charts showing the galaxy's outer reaches. His ships had pushed further into unexplored space than any Council expedition in centuries, claiming new worlds and resources with methodical efficiency. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Andromeda Deep Space Array, reported his communications officer. It's strange, Tejo frowned. The Deep Space Arrays were humanity's early warning system, designed to detect threats from outside the galaxy. What kind of strange? It appears to be a message from another galaxy entirely. The translation software is having trouble, but it seems to be some kind of greeting. Tejo felt a familiar excitement. First contact with an entirely new form of life, from beyond the galactic rim. It was the kind of discovery that had driven humanity to reach for the stars in the first place. Signal Earth Command immediately. This is above my authority level. Captain Yuna had traded her stealth ships for a squadron of heavy cruisers, leading survey missions into the galaxy's most dangerous regions. Her crews had discovered 17 new habitable worlds and established human presence in sectors the Council had written off as too hostile to colonize. "Ma'am, we're approaching the Veil Nebula," reported her navigator. "Sensors are detecting artificial structures inside the gas clouds." Yuna studied the readings with growing interest. The structures were massive, clearly constructed, but using technology that didn't match any known species. Another mystery for humanity to solve, another opportunity for expansion. Take us in, but keep weapons ready. We don't know what's waiting for us in there. Engineer Dong Min oversaw construction of humanity's newest project, the Cygnus Fortress, a massive battle station controlling 3 major hyperspace routes. The station was part diplomatic facility, part military base, and part declaration that humanity was in the galaxy to stay. "How long until the defensive systems are operational?" he asked his construction coordinator. "Another month for full activation, sir. But the primary weapons are already online. Any fleet trying to force passage through this junction will face the firepower of 100 ships." Dongmin nodded with satisfaction. The fortress wasn't just a military installation. It was a symbol of humanity's new position in the galaxy, guardians of the peace they had imposed through superior firepower. Back on Nexus Station, Ambassador Heejin concluded the council session with her usual diplomatic efficiency. The meeting had covered trade disputes, territorial agreements, and joint military operations, all conducted under the new reality of human dominance. "Before we adjourn," she said, consulting her notes, "Earth Command has asked me to inform the Council of our discovery of signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. We'll be organizing an expedition to make contact with whatever intelligence sent them." Chancellor Vorthak Prime looked up sharply. "The Andromeda Galaxy? That's beyond our sphere of influence entirely." "Yes," Heejin agreed. "It is, but it won't be beyond ours for long." The implications hung in the air like a storm cloud. The Council had spent 3,000 years managing their own galaxy, and now humans were talking about expanding to others. The scale of human ambition was becoming clear, and it was terrifying. What do you want from us?" Whisper of Minds asked, her psychic abilities picking up the currents of fear and uncertainty in the chamber. Heejin smiled, and for a moment, her diplomatic mask slipped to reveal the predator beneath. "What we've always wanted: respect, cooperation, and the understanding that humanity is not just another species to be managed and controlled." She stood, gathering her materials as the 2 Marines took their positions beside her. "The galaxy expected humanity's silence when we reached for the stars. Instead, you heard the thunder of warships. Now you're learning what comes after the thunder, the storm that reshapes everything in its path." As the human delegation left the chamber, the council members sat in stunned silence. The old order was gone, swept away by a species that fought like demons and thought like gods. The galaxy would never be the same. In the depths of space, human ships pushed ever further into the unknown, carrying with them the hopes and ambitions of a species that had clawed its way from the caves of Earth to mastery of the stars. The thunder of their passage echoed through the cosmos, and other civilizations in other galaxies began to listen with growing unease. The age of human expansion had only just begun, and the universe itself was about to discover what it meant to hear the thunder of Earth's children among the stars. The combined fleet of the Galactic Council dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, like an avalanche of metal and energy. 300 warships representing the finest military technology of 3 civilizations spread across space in the largest show of force the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. General Thekmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Conquest of Worlds. His scarred hands gripped the command rail as he studied the primitive system ahead. 1 star, a handful of planets, and somewhere among them, the upstart species that dared challenge galactic order. "Sensors report defensive installations around the 3rd and 4th planets," announced his tactical officer. "Significant energy signatures, but nothing that should threaten the fleet." Thekmore nodded grimly. The humans had fought well at the monitoring station, but that had been a minor skirmish against a peacekeeping force. Now they faced the full might of galactic civilization. This would be a lesson that would echo through the stars for millennia. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "Standard suppression formation. We'll give them one chance to surrender before we glass their homeworld." Admiral Bora stood in the command center buried deep beneath the mountains of Korea, watching as 300 enemy contacts appeared on her strategic display. Around her, Earth's military leadership coordinated the defense of humanity's birth world with calm precision. All orbital platforms report ready, announced Commander Hyun-woo. Luna Base is fully operational. The home fleet is in position. Through the reinforced windows, Bora could see the gleaming shapes of humanity's orbital fortresses. Each one was larger than a city, bristling with enough weapons to crack planets. They had taken 50 years to build and represented everything humanity had learned about warfare. "What's the status of the kinetic bombardment system?" she asked. Engineer Dongmin looked up from his control station, where holographic displays showed weapons positions throughout the solar system. "All platforms are online, Admiral. We have firing solutions on every enemy ship." Bora nodded. The aliens were about to learn that humans didn't just build weapons. They built traps. Captain Sang-ho commanded the heavy cruiser Ulsan from his position with the home fleet, hidden in the shadow of Luna's orbital installations. His ship was one of 50 human warships preparing to face odds of 6-1. The mathematics were daunting, but mathematics had never stopped humanity before. "Sir, enemy fleet is broadcasting on all frequencies," reported his communications officer. The main screen flickered, showing General Thekmore in all his alien glory. The Corvin commander's voice carried the authority of 3,000 years of galactic dominance. "Humans of Earth, you have violated galactic law and threatened council authority. You will surrender immediately and submit to judgment. Resist and your species will be erased from history." Admiral Bora's reply came from Earth's command center, her image appearing on every screen in both fleets. "General Thekmore, you entered our system without permission and threatened our homeworld. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawal, or we will consider your presence an act of war." Thekmore's laughter echoed across the communication channels. "You face 300 ships of the combined fleet. What can 50 primitive vessels do against such power?" "Everything necessary," Bora replied, then closed the channel. The Battle of Luna began when the alien fleet opened fire with their suppression weapons, energy beams designed to disable human ships without destroying them. The Council still believed they were dealing with a species that could be conquered and controlled. They discovered their mistake when the humans fired. Back Captain Sang-ho's cruiser unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds that tore through the alien formation's left wing like bullets through paper. Each projectile carried the kinetic energy of a nuclear weapon, and human targeting systems guided them with surgical precision. "Direct hits on 3 enemy vessels," reported his weapons officer. "They're breaking apart." Across the fleet, human ships employed tactics the aliens had never encountered. Instead of engaging in the traditional long-range energy duels that characterize galactic warfare, human vessels closed to point-blank range where their armor could absorb enemy fire, and their weapons could punch through alien defenses. "Admiral." Insu launched her fighter squadrons from the carrier Pusan, 200 small craft swarming through the enemy formation like wolves attacking a herd. The alien point defense systems, designed for elegant energy-based combat, couldn't track the chaotic flight patterns of human pilots, trained in atmospheric combat. "Enemy formation is breaking up," she reported to Admiral Bora. "Their ships can't maintain formation under our fighter attacks." But the real surprise came when Engineer Dongmin activated the kinetic bombardment. Platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt, massive railguns concealed for decades opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of projectiles accelerated to 10% of light speed converged on the alien fleet from every direction. General Thekmore watched in horror as his carefully arranged formation dissolved into chaos. Ships that had dominated the galaxy for centuries exploded like toys under the hammer blow of human kinetic weapons. His tactical displays filled with damage reports and casualty lists. "How are they doing this?" he roared at his staff. "Where are these weapons coming from?" "Sir, they've turned their entire system into a weapon," his tactical officer replied in disbelief. "Every asteroid, every moon, every piece of debris is a potential firing platform." The combined fleet had been designed for show-of-force missions, fighting rebellious colonies and primitive species. Their weapons were sophisticated but limited, their tactics elegant but inflexible. They had never faced an enemy that treated warfare as a science of destruction rather than an art of domination. Captain Minho led a squadron of destroyers in a flanking attack that shattered the enemy fleet's right wing. His ships moved in perfect coordination, their weapon systems networked to create overlapping fields of fire that no alien ship could survive. Enemy dreadnought taking evasive action, reported his gunner. Stay with them, Minho ordered. No survivors, no mercy. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. The battle raged for 6 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The alien fleet had superior numbers and advanced technology, but they lacked humanity's most important advantage. They had never fought a species that considered warfare an existential necessity, rather than a political tool. Admiral Sujin arrived with reinforcements from the Second Fleet, her ships dropping out of hyperspace directly behind the alien formation. The combined fleet found itself trapped between Earth's orbital defenses and fresh human warships, with no escape route that didn't lead through a wall of kinetic fire. All enemy vessels. This is Admiral Sujin, she broadcast on all frequencies. You are defeated. Surrender now and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting and you will be destroyed. General Techmore looked around his devastated bridge where half his crew lay dead, and smoke poured from damaged systems. Of his 300 ships, less than 50 remained combat effective. The rest floated as expanding debris fields or burned like torches in the void. We surrender, he said, his voice broken with defeat. Admiral Bora's image appeared on his screen, her expression as cold as the space between stars. General, you came here to show humanity its place in the galaxy. Instead, you've learned yours. The age of Council dominance is over. The age of human expansion has begun. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city as news of the victory spread. Humanity had faced the combined might of galactic civilization and emerged triumphant. The species that had crawled from the caves of Africa now stood as masters of their own destiny among the stars. But Admiral Bora knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and there were other powers, other threats, other opportunities waiting in the dark between the stars. Signal the fleet, she ordered. Begin Phase 3. It's time to show the galaxy what human expansion looks like. The thunder of warships had become the roar of conquest, and the stars themselves would learn to fear the sound. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the massive chamber of Nexus Station, the political heart of civilized space. For 3,000 years, this room had been a place of calm discussion and measured decisions. Today it echoed with angry voices and the sound of fear. Chancellor Vorthak Prime stood before the great holographic display, showing the wreckage at Kepler 442. His crystalline body caught the light as he gestured at the debris field that had once been a council. Defensive fleet, 12 ships, he said, his voice carrying the weight of disbelief. 12 ships destroyed in 17 minutes by a species we classified as emerging primitives. How is this possible? General Thekmore of the Corvan hegemony slammed his massive fist on the council table, the warrior's scarred face twisted with rage as he studied the tactical recordings. They fight like savages, he growled. No honor, no restraint. They came to destroy, not to capture or subdue. What manner of species attacks without offering terms? Whisper of Minds, the Zelani representative, touched her pale forehead with trembling fingers. Her psychic abilities, usually a source of calm wisdom, now brought her only the echoes of violence from the battle site. I sensed something in the void where they fought, she whispered. These humans, they are not like other species. Their minds burn with something we have not encountered before. What? Demanded the Chancellor. Purpose, she replied. Cold calculating purpose. They did not come to join us. They came to replace us. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For millennia, the Council had maintained peace through a simple principle: overwhelming technological superiority. New species joined willingly because resistance was impossible. Now, for the first time, that principle had been shattered. Admiral Sujin received her orders while the Second Fleet was still in hyperspace, racing toward the Council's military headquarters. Her ships carried humanity's finest warriors and their most advanced weapons, but more importantly, they carried proof that Earth was not afraid of galactic civilization. Ma'am, we're dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds, reported her navigation officer aboard the battlecruiser Guangzhou. Sujin nodded, studying the tactical display that showed Nexus Station ahead. The massive structure was beautiful in its alien architecture, but her trained eye saw only targets and firing solutions. Signal the fleet. Combat formation on arrival. All ships weapons hot, but do not fire unless fired upon. The Second Fleet materialized in space above Nexus Station like a storm made of metal and violence. 28 human warships arranged themselves in perfect attack positions, their weapons trained on the station's most critical systems. On the station, alarms shrieked as sensors detected the human arrival. Station Commander Veltar, a nervous Vorthak administrator, stared at his displays in terror. The human ships were massive, blocky things that radiated menace from every angle. Are they aiming at us? He asked his tactical officer. Yes, sir. Every weapon system in their fleet has target locks on vital station systems. In the council chamber, the debate stopped as news of the human arrival reached them. Chancellor Vorthak Prime felt his crystalline form grow cold as he realized the implications. They're not here to negotiate, he said quietly. They're here to dictate terms. Admiral Sujin's voice filled the chamber as she opened communications from her flagship. Her image appeared on the main display, showing a human woman in military uniform with eyes like winter ice. Members of the Galactic Council, I am Admiral Sujin of the Earth Defense Fleet. We are here to establish humanity's position in galactic affairs. General Techmore leaned forward, his warrior's instincts recognizing a kindred predator. You dare threaten this station? Do you know how many fleets we can summon? We know exactly how many fleets you have, Sujin replied calmly. We also know where they are, what they carry, and how long it would take them to reach any given system. She gestured, and the display changed to show a detailed map of Council military assets throughout the galaxy. Ship positions, supply lines, strategic resources, even the personal files of key commanders appeared on the screen. Commander J. Wan, head of Earth Intelligence, had spent decades building this intelligence network. Human observation posts hidden throughout the galaxy had mapped every Council asset, intercepted every communication, and analyzed every weakness. This is impossible, whispered Whisper of Minds. No species could gather this information without our knowledge. You're right, Sujin agreed. No species like yours could accomplish this. But we're not like you. We've been watching you for 50 years, learning everything we could about your strengths and weaknesses. Chancellor Vorthak Prime tried to regain control of the situation. What do you want? Resources? Territory? We can negotiate. We want respect, Sujin interrupted. We want the galaxy to understand that humanity is not another species to be guided and controlled. We are your equals and we will be treated as such. And if we refuse? General Thekmore growled. Sujin smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then you'll discover why every species on Earth that tried to dominate humanity is now extinct. The threat hung in the air like a blade. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Galactic Council faced a species that was not asking for permission to exist. They were announcing their intention to claim their place in the galaxy. By force, if necessary. You cannot threaten the Council, Chancellor Vorthak Prime said, but his voice lacked conviction. We're not threatening you, Sujin replied. We're informing you. Humanity is now part of galactic civilization, whether you approve or not. The only question is whether that transition happens peacefully or violently. On Earth, Admiral Bora watched the confrontation unfold on her command screens. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Humanity's strategy had always been simple. Demonstrate overwhelming force, then offer reasonable terms. It was the same approach they had used throughout their violent history. Admiral, we're receiving reports from our deep space scouts, reported Commander Hyunwoo. The Council is mobilizing their combined fleet, 300 ships converging on Sol system. Bora nodded. They had expected this response. The Council would attempt to crush this upstart species before they could become a real threat. It was exactly what humanity would have done in their position. Signal Admiral Sujin, Phase 2 is approved. Have her return to Earth immediately. What about the Council's ultimatum? They're demanding our surrender within 48 hours. Bora looked up from her reports, her expression calm despite the magnitude of the moment. Tell them we're not surrendering. We're preparing to show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Admiral Sujin closed communications with the Council and turned to her fleet commanders. The first diplomatic contact had gone exactly as Earth strategists had predicted. The Council would never accept humanity as equals through negotiation. They would have to be convinced through demonstration. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. We're returning to Sol system. Ma'am, what about the station? Asked her weapons officer. Leave it alone. We've made our point. Now we prepare for the real battle. As the human fleet vanished into hyperspace, the Galactic Council sat in stunned silence. For 3 millennia, they had been the arbiters of galactic civilization. Now for the first time they faced a species that refused to acknowledge their authority. "Mobilize everything," Chancellor Vorthak Prime ordered. "Every ship, every weapon, every ally. These humans must be stopped before they can spread their madness to other species." But deep in his crystalline heart, he wondered if it was already too late. The galaxy had heard the thunder of human warships, and the sound would echo through the stars forever. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system like sharks emerging from dark water. 37 warships arranged themselves in perfect battle formation, their weapons already charging as they accelerated toward the alien monitoring station. Captain Tejo stood on the bridge of the Sol, watching as his tactical display filled with contact markers. The alien base hung in space ahead of them, a graceful structure of flowing metal and crystal that looked more like art than a military installation. "Sir, they're hailing us," reported Communications Officer Sojin. "Standard first contact protocols. They want us to power down our weapons and prepare for boarding." Tejo almost smiled. After studying alien communications for decades, humanity knew exactly how these encounters were supposed to go. The newcomers arrived peacefully, submitted to inspection, and were gently escorted to their assigned place in the galactic order. "Open a channel," Tejo ordered. "All frequencies." The main screen flickered, showing a tall insectoid creature with multiple arms and compound eyes. This was Controller Zephys, commander of the monitoring station. His voice carried the patient tone of someone who had guided dozens of species through first contact. "Welcome, children of Earth," Zephys said in carefully practiced human language. "I am Controller Zephys of the Galactic Council. You have taken your first steps into the larger galaxy. Please power down your weapons and prepare to receive our representatives." Tejo stepped forward, his uniform crisp and his expression calm. Behind him, his bridge crew continued their preparations with quiet efficiency. "Controller Zephys, I am Captain Tejo of the Earth Defense Fleet. We're here to discuss humanity's place in the galaxy. We prefer to handle this diplomatically, but we're prepared for other approaches." Zephys tilted his head, confused by the human's tone. There was no gratitude in the captain's voice, no excitement at joining galactic civilization. Instead, there was something cold and professional that made the alien controller's skin crawl. "Captain, there seems to be some misunderstanding. You must follow standard procedures, please." "No," Tejo interrupted. "We will not follow your procedures. We will not power down our weapons. We will not submit to boarding. Humanity is here to negotiate as equals, not to beg for scraps." Across the fleet, human captains received their final orders. Admiral Insu, commanding the carrier Pusan, launched her fighter squadrons. 200 small craft poured from the carrier's bays, moving in formations the aliens had never seen before. Captain Minho, piloting the destroyer Daegu, felt his weapon systems come online with a low hum. His ship carried enough firepower to level a city, packed into a hull designed to survive anything the enemy could throw at it. On the monitoring station, alarms began to sound. Zephys stared at his sensors in disbelief as the human fleet spread out in an attack formation. This wasn't how first contact worked. New species were supposed to be awed by galactic technology, not threatening council installations. "Human vessels, you are in violation of galactic law," Zephys announced, his voice rising with panic. "Power down immediately or we will be forced to—" The transmission cut off as Captain Tejo closed the channel. Around him, his crew worked with the smooth precision of years of training. They had drilled for this scenario countless times. "Weapon status?" Tejo asked. "All systems green, sir. Kinetic cannons loaded and ready. Fighter squadrons? In position and awaiting orders. Fleet status? All ships report ready for combat operations." Tejo nodded. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Humanity had studied alien technology for decades, analyzing every signal, every transmission, every piece of data they could intercept. They knew exactly how Council forces fought, and they had designed their tactics to counter every advantage the aliens possessed. The monitoring station's defensive fleet powered up their weapons, energy signatures blazing across human sensors. 12 elegant alien warships arranged themselves in a ceremonial formation designed to impress rather than fight. Their weapons were powerful but limited, their shields strong but inflexible. "Sir, they're charging weapons," reported the tactical officer. "Let them," Tejo replied. "Execute Alpha Strike." The human fleet opened fire simultaneously. Kinetic cannons launched tungsten projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Energy weapons carved through space in precise patterns. Fighter squadrons swarmed through the alien formation like angry hornets, their weapons targeting weak points that human intelligence had identified years ago. The battle lasted exactly 17 minutes. The aliens fought with the tactics of peacekeepers, using suppression weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. They expected the humans to surrender once they realized the futility of resistance, just like every other species had done for 3,000 years. Instead, they discovered that human weapons didn't have stun settings. Captain Minho watched his weapons barely charge to half power before the alien ships began exploding. Human fighters danced through defensive fire that couldn't track their chaotic flight patterns. Kinetic rounds punched through alien shields like they were made of paper. "My God," whispered his weapons officer. "They're not even fighting back effectively." "They don't know how," Minho replied. "They've forgotten what real war looks like." Admiral Insu coordinated the fighter attack from her carrier's bridge, watching as her pilots dismantled the alien formation with surgical precision. The enemy ships were beautiful, elegant, and completely unprepared for the brutal realities of human warfare. "All enemy vessels neutralized, Admiral," reported her air group commander. "No human casualties." On the monitoring station, Controller Zephys stared at the wreckage of his defensive fleet in shock. 12 ships, destroyed in minutes by creatures the Council had dismissed as primitive. His multiple hands shook as he activated the emergency beacon that would summon help from across the galaxy. Captain Tejo opened communications again, his face appearing on screens throughout the alien station. "Controller Zephys, as I said, we prefer diplomatic solutions. Are you ready to discuss terms?" The alien controller looked at the human captain with new eyes. This wasn't a primitive savage to be guided and controlled. This was a predator that had just demonstrated its willingness to kill. "What do you want?" Zephys asked. "Respect," Tejo replied simply. "We want the galaxy to understand that humanity is not another species to be patronized and controlled. We are a force to be reckoned with." Across the galaxy, the footage of the battle spread through communication networks at light speed. Alien military analysts watched in horror as human tactics tore apart ships that had kept peace for centuries. The impossible had happened. A new species had not only rejected Council authority, but had crushed Council forces in open battle. On Earth, Admiral Bora received the battle reports with grim satisfaction. The first phase of humanity's introduction to galactic society was complete. Now came the hard part, convincing the galaxy's major powers that Earth was not a threat to be eliminated, but a force to be respected. "Send word to the Second Fleet," she ordered. "Captain Tejo has opened the door. Now we walk through it." The galaxy had expected humanity to whisper requests for acceptance. Instead, they had announced their presence with the thunder of warships and the silence that followed battle. The age of human expansion had begun, and the stars would never be the same. The massive space station floating in the void between stars hummed with activity. Inside its gleaming halls, representatives from 3 mighty alien civilizations gathered around a holographic display showing a small blue planet. Earth, they called it, home to a species that had just discovered faster-than-light travel. "They are ready," announced Vorthak Prime, his crystalline body reflecting the soft lights of the chamber. His people had ruled technology for thousands of years. "Our scouts report they have built their first hyperspace engine." General Techmore, a towering warrior from the Corvin hegemony, nodded his scarred head. "Good, another world to bring into the fold. They will make fine workers in the outer colonies." The third member of the council, a graceful Zelani named Whisper of Minds, touched her pale forehead with slender fingers. "I sense their thoughts across the void. They are curious but cautious. They will accept our guidance, as all young species do. For 3,000 years this pattern had never failed. New civilizations reached for the stars. The Galactic Council made contact, and within a decade the newcomers joined as junior members. Some became miners, others became farmers. A few lucky ones became researchers under careful supervision. All learned their place in the galaxy's grand design. On Earth, Captain Tejo stood in the bridge of humanity's newest ship, the Soul. Through the view screen, he watched technicians make final adjustments to the quantum communication array. After decades of detecting alien signals, humanity was finally ready to announce itself to the galaxy. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," reported Communications Officer So-Jin. Her fingers danced across the control panel as alien symbols appeared on the screen. It's a first contact message." Tejo felt his heart race. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of for centuries. "Put it through to Earth Command immediately." 3 hours later, Admiral Bora sat in her office deep beneath the mountains of South Korea, reading the translated message for the 5th time. Around the table, Earth's top military leaders studied the alien communication with growing unease. "They want us to join something called the Protected Species Program," said Commander Hyun-woo, his voice tight with controlled anger. "We would mine asteroids and grow food for them. In return, they promised to keep us safe from the dangers of the galaxy." Lieutenant So-Jin, who had been transferred to Earth Command for this meeting, shook her head. The translation software picked up subtle meanings in their language. "They're not offering partnership. They're offering slavery with better food." Admiral Bora stood and walked to the window overlooking the hidden military base. Outside, she could see the massive shapes of humanity's secret fleet under construction. For 50 years, Earth had prepared for this moment. They had watched alien signals, studied their technology, and learned their weaknesses. "They think we're just another primitive species," Bora said quietly. "They expect us to be grateful for their protection." "What are your orders, Admiral?" asked Commander Hyun-woo. Bora turned back to face her officers. Her eyes held the cold light of someone who had spent decades preparing for war. "Send Captain Tejo this message. Tell the aliens we accept their invitation to meet. But we're not sending diplomats." Dr. Woo Jin looked up from his tablet where he had been reading intelligence reports about alien military capabilities. "Admiral, our analysis shows their fleets are designed for show, not combat. They've had peace for so long they've forgotten how to fight a real war." "Good," Bora replied, "because we never stopped learning." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council waited for humanity's response with the patient confidence of teachers expecting obedient students. They had already prepared Earth's assignment, mining duty in the Kepler system, far from civilized space where the humans could learn their place slowly. On the moon, Captain Jinne watched the final hull plates being welded onto the Incheon, humanity's first dreadnought. The ship stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its armor thick enough to shrug off nuclear weapons. Unlike the elegant curves of alien vessels, human ships looked like flying fortresses built for one purpose: winning battles. "How many more days until launch?" Jinne asked her chief engineer. 12 hours, Captain. All weapon systems are online. The kinetic cannons are loaded and ready." Jinne nodded. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. While other species built ships for exploration and trade, humans built ships for war. It was the one advantage they hoped would matter when the shooting started. In the outer system, Commander Yuna led a squadron of stealth ships through their final reconnaissance mission. Her vessels used technology stolen from alien broadcasts, improved with human engineering. They were invisible to standard sensors, allowing them to map every alien outpost within 50 light-years of Earth. "Ma'am, we've identified their forward base," reported her navigator. "It's lightly defended. They're not expecting trouble." Yuna smiled grimly. "They will be." Engineer Dongmin put the finishing touches on humanity's most secret weapon. Hidden in asteroids throughout the solar system, massive railguns waited for orders. Each one could accelerate a 100-ton projectile to 10% of light speed. When they fired, entire fleets would die in seconds. "The galaxy thinks in terms of energy weapons and shields," Dongmin explained to his team. "They've never faced kinetic bombardment. A rock moving fast enough doesn't care about their defenses." Back on Earth, Admiral Bora received the final reports from her commanders. Humanity's fleet was ready. Their weapons were loaded. Their crews had trained for this moment their entire lives. "Send the message to Captain Tejo," she ordered. "Launch the fleet." The aliens were expecting a small diplomatic vessel carrying humble ambassadors. Instead, they were about to meet 37 warships crewed by warriors from a species that had never known true peace. Captain Tejo took his position on the bridge of the Soul as the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They knew this might be humanity's last chance to determine its own fate. "All ships report ready, sir," announced Sojin from her communication station. "Very well," Tejo replied. "Signal the fleet, jump." 37 human warships vanished into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes and fury of an entire species. The galaxy expected humanity's silence. Instead, they were about to hear thunder.